And away we go. It's the DFS Alert presented by Awesemo.com. Dan Strafford and Adam Scher along with you on this Thursday morning. Dan and Emac flipping scripts here. Emac will be with Dave Lockgren Friday morning. I'm here with Adam on this Thursday morning. We have a 4-game early, a 6-game late. We'll get to those momentarily. But as always, want to hear how Adam's doing. Adam, how are you doing?
Doing pretty well. Would be doing better if, the Nats or the Braves could pile on runs after scoring a bunch at the beginning of the game, but that's baseball.
That is, in fact, baseball, and I will say football around the corner. If you are looking for season-long content, Awesemo.com has that free in front of the paywall. We have projections from Alex himself. That, if you don't know, that's Awesemo. DFS. He has season-long projections, and obviously NFL right around the corner. You're going to get a ton of content from us. If you want in on that, early bird is your promo code, 50% off your first month. I'll talk a little bit about our sponsor for this podcast, Yahoo DFS, in a little bit. Their contest for NFL week number 1 to get you started there. But we have this split slate. We have some pretty good pitchers on the early one. It's 4 games. It's one of those situations where I feel like we can go game by game. We can go position by position. We can just talk pitching. But it really stands out that Clevenger gets Detroit at 12-2 and Berrios gets the White Sox at 9-9. I know we have to talk further than that because we have to roster 2 pitchers, but if you were just take a small snapshot of this slate, those 2 stand out pretty head and shoulders above the rest. Do you have any reservations for either of them in those matchups?
No, certainly not for Clevenger. The only concern would be that he's really expensive. I think the sites did a good job of pricing him up. 54 on Yahoo is really, really appealing. I think that should be pretty easy to get to. But on FanDuel, he's 11.9, and on DraftKings, he's 12.2. So they definitely did a good job of pricing on this slate. But he's just a phenomenal strikeout pitcher. He's going to get a predominantly right-handed lineup. And I haven't refreshed the numbers, but last I looked, he was striking out about 43% of right-handed hitters this season. He's increased his slider usage by like 20%. He's been basically unhittable against them, 43.8% strikeout percentage, and now he gets this Tigers team. So I really would like to get Clevenger into as many lineups as I can. Berrios nowhere near the strikeout pitcher, and while the White Sox are not good, they also are not the Tigers. So I definitely prefer Clevenger if I can in any way get to him, but that is a lot of extra money.
It is, and something to consider as you roll through. I have to update my fan graphs. I did this last time you and I recorded together. Have to get to 2019 numbers. No more of that Fultonevich BS last time we recorded. So, all right, now we're good. But Clevenger has been one of those names that you look at Cleveland's rotation and all the injuries they've had, and I'll be honest, seeing Carrasco coming back, even in a relief role, is awesome. You forget about the baseball and the DFS from a human being standpoint. Him being back on the mound, battling leukemia, the whole thing he's going through is awesome to see. But Clevenger's been fantastic, has battled through some things on the season, but this is the sort of absolute smash spot on a 4-game slate. If you wanted to peg his ownership, what would your guess be, even at 12-2 on DraftKings?
40-ish?
Yeah, that's exactly. I was thinking 40 to 45%. Just feels like where he'll end up. Now, we do have to roster somebody else, so we need a second pitcher on DK. I will point out Berrios is a tad cheaper on FanDuel than he is on DK. He's 8,800 on FanDuel. We'll check some Yahoo prices, as Adam pointed out momentarily. Who else are you going to? I don't want to belabor this slate. I don't want to make it as if we're breaking down a 12-game slate of Greinke, Bassett, Dylan Cease. You have Trevor Richards, and it looks like you have Verhagen and Sparkman as your 2 long guys. Daniel Norris is listed as an opener on DK. I'll verify that momentarily. But where else do you see yourself at least gravitating towards this early on at first look?
Do we know who's pitching for? You told me, but it's Richards for the Rays.
That's what I have listed here. I'll double check on MLB.com.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's tough because if it's going to be Sparkman for Kansas City, it's a brutal matchup. Oakland's has almost a 6 implied run total, and Sparkman is awful. But at the same time, he'll be cheap enough that you can get Clevenger in. Kind of the same thing for whoever's pitching for Detroit. It's a bad matchup for Norris or for Verhagen, and they aren't very good. But it's going to be really tough, I would think, to get Clevenger plus a pitcher that you actually feel good about, because out of Bassett, Berrios, Greinke, the cheapest is Bassett at 8,500. And that's spending $21K at pitcher, which then kind of really paints you into a corner where you're stuck going to some really, really bad bats.
I will point out, according to MLB.com and double checking here on ESPN, Tampa Bay is still undecided. So I'll take a look at their Twitter handle, see if I can figure anything out as we go through the rest of this podcast. So it may not be Trevor Richards, DK FanDuel, sort of plugging in a name that would be next up, I suppose, as we roll on. Anybody on FanDuel seem to stand out? Is Berrios more of a consideration at 8,800 over there?
Yeah, it's an extra $1,000, even compared to DraftKings. I think that he's a really good point per dollar option. It's just, I love Clevenger so much.
Oh, wow. Getting to deep feelings here on the podcast.
He's been one of my guys since the fan days.
I know. I remember those Twitter battles that you haven't brought those back up, right? I know you've shared them Slack wise, but you haven't brought them up on Twitter.
No. It's always like tip of my tongue, but I haven't done.
Yeah, you have enough libations, and then who the hell knows where the night will go. But nonetheless,
if I win a tournament with him, it'll probably happen.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. You need to buy the Clevenger jersey first, and then just like walk into the middle of Baltimore wearing that, video it, and then send that out. I think you're ready to go. Here's the thing. I think this is a short slate. I get it. We probably could cover off a little bit more, but I don't want to belabor it. We'll talk about this 6-game late slate. Offensive wise, you made the point that you're going to have to make some sort of decision on pairing someone with Clevenger. So obviously the offense opposing that may not be as in play. 4-game slate, are you willing to take a one-off against your own pitcher when it comes to that cheap option like a Sparkman or a Verhagen?
Yeah, especially because... Yeah, I think on this slate, getting creative probably is more of a thing that you can do on a slate like this than on most. Normally I kind of try and stay on the beaten path because, it's people figured out how to be good at DFS and they do it one way, and I try and kind of do it that way too. But on slates like this, if you go that direction, you're really going to be putting yourself in positions where everyone who goes the same route as you at pitching is doing like the same thing. So knowing that people are hesitant to take a batter against their pitcher, or knowing that people are going to stack on slates like this, where like there's a pitcher that I think is just clearly the best, and there are offenses that I like, but I can't really get them together in a conventional way, I'm more willing to do some weird things.
I will say on the slate, what was it? Wednesday night, I logged in to check one of my tournament lineups, and somebody who was in first early on, this is probably around 8 o'clock, had Scherzer and 2 bats against him.
I think I remember seeing that.
And that's an 11-game slate. This isn't a 4-game slate. It's an 11-game slate. That didn't last, to be clear. But it is crazy, the lineup construction you will see from some, even on a deeper slate. So sometimes things can get a little crazy, but I don't think that is as crazy on this short slate when trying to construct something that will be a little bit different, potentially give you a little bit of leverage, but still give you the high upside of a Clevenger at the top end of the player pool. Let's take our turn to this 6-game slate, which is our night slate. We will see plenty of tournaments. DK's already run some big ones out. You'll see potentially a couple more filter in because the late slates as we're recording this, and then the early are there. But we get DeGrom here against the Cubs. They absolutely murdered Syndergaard. That is not transitive. I don't say that just because the Cubs beat up on Syndergaard, you should not take DeGrom, but this is a very good offense, Adam. 12K flat for DeGrom. You have Ryu against Arizona at 10.5, Lance Lynn at 10K against Seattle, an offense that has clearly struggled on the year. Then you get Paddock in San Fran against the Giants at 9K. I love Paddock. I know he's struggled. I know he's not been the same pitcher that we've seen to start the year. Last time out, absolutely rocked. Did give up 6 runs, a home run, 1 walk, not a single strikeout for Paddock in the 2 1/3 innings he pitched against the Boston Red Sox. Maybe we chalk that up to opponent, but still some struggles there for him. What do you like at the top end? Do you go to DeGrom against the Cubs, or do you try to get cheaper with a Lynn or a Paddock at cheaper price points?
Well, for a second, I was looking at the FanDuel pricing, and I thought Chris Paddock was 7K on DraftKings, and I was going to say I really just couldn't care less what he's looked like. But, yeah, DeGrom's price tag is expensive, but He's also really good. Not a great matchup against the Cubs, though. And as you had said, it's not that they lit up Syndergaard, so you should change your opinion of DeGrom at all. But that's the kind of team the Cubs are. They have a lot of really good hitters, and it's not easy. And DeGrom's not discounted. You have the thing that makes it tough to get to DeGrom is that Lance Lynn is $2K cheaper in a much better matchup, and Chris Paddock is $3K cheaper in San Francisco. Even Ryu, not in a great matchup, but he's $1,500 less. So I think it's just really tough, especially in tournaments where you're more concerned with maximizing your ceiling than you are with getting the best median projection. I think that saving that money and getting to Lynn is probably the best way to go.
That makes sense to me, and a way to get away from the top end and highest price points. Paddock, Lester, Wood, Merrill Kelly gets the Dodgers. You have some names that maybe not on many people's radars with a guy like Duggar. Trevor Williams on this slate in Colorado is at he's at 5,700. Flip those numbers. Felix Hernandez, and we get pretty cheap and pretty crappy pretty quickly here, Adam. Where else do you see some potential upside? You have Alex Wood in Miami. There are a ton of righties in that lineup. They're a little bit better against left-handed pitchers. Any other names here that first glance feel like guys that you're at least comfortable targeting, comfortable putting into a player pool, or from your perspective, writing the deep dive on Thursday that you look forward to writing up in any way?
So I do want to clarify quick on Lynn, the caveat that, Seattle's not very good. They do have 7 lefties in their projected lineup, and Lynn is really, really good at limiting production from everyone, but his strikeout percentage against righties this year is 15 points higher than it is against lefties, 35% to 20%. So that would be a concern. But looking at the cheaper guys, Alex Wood in a good spot against Miami, maybe he's due for a bad game since Anthony DeSclafani had a monster game last night, and YouTube chat says that's unusual in Miami. But you did mention that it's a very right-handed heavy lineup. Alex Wood's not a great strikeout pitcher, and it's a right-handed heavy lineup. So I think that Wood is fine. Maybe not the highest ceiling in the world, but they do have a 3.9 implied run total. Derek Rodriguez against the Padres in San Francisco. Rodriguez isn't any good, but 4,600 in San Francisco is something that I play pretty much every chance I get.
Yeah, and that makes total sense at that cheaper price point. You have clear strikeout upside against the Padres, 26.6% strikeout percentage against righties, ISO 163, WRC plus of 82. Did refresh this as we're going through, but maybe not updated for the August 28th, which was Wednesday's date, but still clearly some bit of upside for a guy like Derek Rodriguez, which may allow you to get up to a Lance Lynn or even a DeGrom if you want to go that far. Any love for some Chichi Gonzalez? I don't care if you do. I just want to say Chichi, to be quite honest. Any other cheap names that you want to throw out there, or ready to talk some offenses and say so long?
Yeah, I think ready to talk offenses. So I had meant to look it up. Robert Duggar, I don't really know anything about him.
I have very little knowledge outside of the fact that he was, I thought, brought up because Yamamoto was going on the DL or IL. Sorry, I know it's been 5 months. The IL, actually looking at the note. So he was sent to the injured list with a forearm strain, and he is, he has a 7.59 ERA in AAA. So that's not even the PCL. So it's
I just pulled that up. 53 and a third innings, 6.09 xFIP, 19.9% strikeout percentage, ground ball percentage 37.5%. He's almost looking like one of those guys where there are so few redeeming qualities that I assume he's like really deceptive and somehow good or something.
Sure,
like Nick Margevicius earlier in the year, but no, I mean he's cheap in Miami, so that's the argument for him. But you have an even cheaper, not very good pitcher in San Francisco in Rodriguez.
It took me a second. I couldn't remember where the name Duggar reminded me of, but that was that crazy reality TV family for so long. They had like 27 children or something like that, and I have to look it up. But 10 kids and counting, or 17. It was a multiple that is way too high, and no one should have that many children. But the Duggars are a name that reminded me. So he is not a member of that family.
I was thinking that it reminded me of the outfielder on the Giants, also named Duggar.
Oh, sure. Well, yeah. I mean, if you want to be sports oriented on a sports podcast, Adam, I
Well,
suppose.
no, but when you said that it reminded you of something, I was thinking, yeah, it did me too. And then as you were talking, I was like, that definitely isn't what it was. It was the Giants guy.
It was that time where it was like I had a crazy ex who, I mean, this wasn't why she was crazy, but I have a crazy ex who watched all the TLC reality shows. There's the Duggar Family and like John and Kate plus 8.
I remember that.
Yeah, like those were all on at the same time. So I have enough peripheral knowledge of that and General Hospital because of my crazy ex-girlfriend from now 20 years ago. Hell, no, 16, 17 years ago. But nonetheless, I digress. Offenses on this slate, it would seem Duggar has a spot where the Reds could exploit him. Obviously, this is in Marlins Park. You have Williams in Colorado, Chichi Gonzalez on the other side against Pittsburgh, and then Felix Hernandez, a shell of his former self. And this would seem like a pretty big spot for the Texas Rangers. Put up some big numbers. What offenses are your favorite here on this short 6-game slate?
Both sides of course. I mean, Gonzalez isn't any good. Trevor Williams isn't good. Both these teams right now have implied run totals over 7. And then you can kind of go right from there to Texas against Felix Hernandez, who great career, not great anymore. And then obviously the Dodgers against Merrill Kelly, but I think I would go in that order.
All right. The trivia question of the day is, how old is Felix Hernandez?
Not as old as I want to say.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, like 34.
He's 33.
Okay, yeah.
He is 4 years younger than me, and bless him because he's had a much more storied career than I ever will have. But his career's already done. Like we're already saying he's done, right? We're already, and I feel like I have probably about 40 more years of working to go through. So.
Right, and it's not, he's retiring because he's tired of baseball. We're saying he's washed.
Right.
Like he physically cannot play baseball anymore.
Can't play baseball anymore. We're Andrew Luckingham. But the fact of the matter is, great pitcher. I've always loved King Felix. He has been with the Mariners since 2005.
Yeah.
14 years in the major
20,
leagues.
Right?
Yeah, he was 19 when he was 19 when he came up, and has been dominant for a long time. And over the past 3 years, we've seen the demise, and he's thrown a lot of innings. So it will be a career to look back on when we're well past this, because this sort of sullies the image of what we used to remember Felix Hernandez to be. But hopefully we'll have a chance to revisit how dominant he was for those years for Seattle. But a spot here where it's seen Texas has a gigantic upside. One final question has nothing really to do with the slate specifically, but you mentioned Coors Field has 2 teams, 7+ implied total. We talked all basketball season long about how the NBA is going towards offense. The NFL, we've seen rules and regulations put in place that the offense is more dominant. We're just going to see game totals go up and up, right? This is an unending runaway train where everyone wants offense. Everybody digs the long ball. Everybody loves 80-yard touchdown passes. Everybody loves the 3-point shot. Do you see this slowing down anytime in the not too distant future?
Probably not. I mean, the obvious answer would be it depends on what baseball does with, it depends on what Major League Baseball does with the physical baseballs.
Yes.
If they, I know that they've said there's no difference, but if they were to, change them back to what they used to be, then obviously some of the offense would go away. But also hitters are hitting differently. Their approach is much different. There are a lot of hitters back in the day that I'm sure would have been prolific home run hitters if they had wanted to be prolific home run hitters at the expense of getting on base. Like, you can't tell me Tony Gwynn couldn't have hit 40 home runs if he wanted to. So I think that with the new approach to baseball, offense will just also keep going up.
There you have it. Let's end the podcast there. As always, you find Adam on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. You can find me if you so choose. That is up to you. At Dan Strafford. It's at Osmo_com for the website. Osmo MLB, Osmo NFL, and so on. NBA, NHL. And you can follow all those Twitter handles individually. Each has giveaways from time to time. So does the main Twitter handle. Remember, it's early bird, one word, 50% off your first month. And I will remind you, over on Yahoo, you have first week, week number 1 of the NFL. You have a management-free $25 entry, 10-entry max, $1 million prize pool tournament. So 40,000 entries, $25 a piece. 10 max that can put you into a very large payday on week number 1. You have the Yahoo Cup, which is free. You get payouts weekly, and you also get payouts at the end of the year. And there's also a $10, 11,000 entry, $100,000 prize pool, 20K to first tournament over there on Yahoo. So plenty of offerings on Yahoo. Obviously, DK, FanDuel, the other sites are going to have some big tournaments as well. But Yahoo doing their part with the management fee, I get that wrong every time. Management fee free tournament. I think that's right. No management fee. That's the way I should say it. But nonetheless, as always, you find Adam writing up the deep dive Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. You'll see him on the deeper dive every day, Monday through Friday. And that will continue into NBA season, as NBA is not around the corner. You get Adam, you get Lofty, and you get the rest of the cast of characters over at Osmo, which is just in October. So be ready for that as well. With that said, wish you the best of luck tomorrow. Emac and Lofty will bring you through the DFS Early Bird presented by Osmo.com.